Well, that was a lot of blood for Monday Night Raw episode. We'll get to the Gunther Uso segment in a bit. We also have the setup for what has been long predicted, which is a triple threat match with Bianca Belair and Io Sky and then Rhea Ripley getting added. But Javier, I want to start with what I've been waiting for. John Cena addressing Cody Rhodes directly. Cody Rhodes not waiting for Cena to say a bunch of stuff, and then he kind of reacts somewhat guardedly, leaving a lot of stuff on the table. They let loose. On week one, my analysis was this is working, but there are some really big things not being talked about here, and I hope that they are just pacing themselves. I think this week was, whether ultimately a part of a master plan or not, an example of some pacing, and we got a crescendo of not only intensity, but also attention to detail. In that Rock was addressed, in that Cena had some very specific things about Cody. It wasn't just a generic outline of an opponent so he could go to war with the fans. I'll throw it to you. I've got a lot more thoughts on it, but what do you think, Javier?
Yeah, I've been hearing the commentary from you and on the fix and stuff where it just seems that he's just ragging on the fans. I did see the first promo. I'm a little bit, I was on vacation, so I'm not 100% caught off. I did see the first promo, and I was like, okay, well, this was not what I wanted after that WrestleMania. I didn't want to see the fans turned on me, and this is the reason why it's all your fault, and that was not what I was hoping. I was hoping for it to be more of a serious why I came back. And this I think is what I would have preferred on the first week. And
Yep.
just go ahead and explain why. Because I mean, even today they didn't explain super much, but he owned. It was a callback to when he had that promo with Roman Reigns when he came back to face Roman Reigns, and he told him, if you were to be able to carry the ball, I wouldn't have to come back, something to that effect. And he's doing the same thing, except he's doing it definitely more from a heel perspective, saying, I'm back because you're mediocre, you're not good, just like Roman Reigns and all the people he's, buried, even, going into the meta, universe with that one, all the people that they've accused him of burying, he says, well, it's because we're all mediocre, and I'm the true champion, and I'm here to, do the same thing to Cody. So I finally understand why he was what his beef with Cody is.
Yeah.
I just now would really like to know, and they did mention his name finally. Now I'd like to know, how does the whole Rock thing get him there?
Yeah, a lot to dive into. I want to kind of delve into some of the points you made and some additional ones too as we go here. The key is Cena's about to talk, and Cody's like, I'm not going to sit back and let you talk this week. So Cody being a little bit more alpha and kind of steering things and not just standing there compliantly letting Cena talk a lot. And then Cody preemptively going, hey, or saying, you've been saying you're going to take me down verbally, and well, let me beat you to the punch on a couple things. And Cody showing he's self-aware, little self-deprecating. Well, I got an arm tattoo on my neck, and I have a lisp. Yes. I'm going to make fun of my lisp. And then he said there's an S word, Stardust. And by the way, Cody was really entertaining at Stardust. I mean, I know it was like mid-card, and he's risen well above it, and his checks prove that. I got a kick out of Cody playing that gimmick. He made the best of it. But he said he's still struggling with the idea that Superman is dead. And then that's where he said, what we need to hear from you is why. Why we know Cena said he turned on the fans, and then he said they're ungrateful, but why? And then that's when we got into the grit of things being about WWE being taken over by somebody that he doesn't respect or that he's jealous of. I think the one aspect, and I covered this last week, I think it was about 14 minutes into the show, people want to cue it up when I was saying, what I was looking forward to, and I think they checked most of the boxes of things that I thought were just low-hanging fruit, very compelling things for Cody to bring up. He got into it. It was very much on the periphery, but we're drawing more fans than you did, Cena. And I actually thought there was a point where he's going to go there explicitly and talk about filling stadiums 2 nights in a row. How often did you do that? Like, really start bragging about this current era. I don't know if that's striking too close, or they don't want to make it seem like Cena's not a really big star. And I can understand. If Cena's turning heel and you're building WrestleMania around his return match, you don't want to start going, well, his era wasn't that successful either. And then I think the talking points for a lot of people coming out of this, and then I don't want it to overshadow them promoting the match, I think, but in some ways it might overshadow some of the other content that I've just run down here that I've been waiting for, which is, just Cody Rhodes making fun of John Cena a little bit in response to Cena making fun of him. But in there was alluding to Vince McMahon choosing you, John Cena, whereas the fans chose me. He goes, the guy in the office who we don't talk about anymore. And then Cena had to come back about the billionaire. And he said, you had to leave because you realized at your best you can't wipe my ass. I make empires for billionaires. All you've ever done is steal money from their kids. See you at WrestleMania, champ. And then they got physical. So there's a number of things there, including physicality, which people were calling for in the chat last week. So WWE listened. They're booking this WrestleMania main event based on chat room wants and needs. So good job, chat room. And the reference to Vince McMahon got the crowd to go ooh, and the allusion to Shad Khan being the billionaire and Tony Khan being his son, and Cody. And Cody stealing money from the son. That's going to dominate a lot of conversation. Yeah, go ahead, Javier.
Yeah, and on that same thing, he also said, he alluded to, you disenfranchised the wrestling fan that allowed them to seek somewhere else to give them something that they weren't doing. Yes. So there was the allusion to that too, yep. Which was also, wow moment for me, particularly using the word disenfranchised, because we use that a lot here.
Yes. So do you think the Vince comment and the reference to Tony Khan was ultimately productive, or was it, this will get people talking? Like, because I'm generally, sort of philosophically when it comes to wrestling promos, have an aversion to including something in a promo that has that sort of ephemeral social media buzz, sugar rush, that can be counterproductive or distract from the more important issue, which is, are you getting yourself over in the role that you're in, and are you promoting a match? Did that go a little too far, or is that the kind of juiciness and meta shoot stuff that Rock and Cena kind of engage in that fans won't be happy without? And in fact, it makes it feel like they're not leaving anything on the table or off limits. Kind of, where are you on that?
Well, I mean, consider the fact that it took me a second to realize what the line, you're stealing from their children. It took me a second, because at first I thought it was a reference to, because he's all, a polished, basically like a fake person, right? It was like what Cena was saying, that, is just a way for them to rip off the kids, kind of like what Cena has been doing. I thought it was like kids in general. Took me a second when I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He's playing off of the billionaire thing, saying that I make, I'm the guy who, builds the place, and you're just here. Then that's when it took me a moment that he's, working off of the money of, like, the Stephanie children, Hunter and Stephanie, and Tony Khan on the other in AEW. So since it had that double, like, someone who's not like plugged in, because my problem with that meta stuff is, like, if you're not plugged in and they're telling you stuff and you have no idea what it's about, that's when I have an issue. When something is either a double entendre or something that's like superficial enough where you're like, okay, while management could put you in a position, like, UFC, for example, a very good wrestler or a fighter who is boring is less likely to get the big main events and the big, championship shots than someone who's a little bit more excited. So ownership does also, quote unquote, choose people, not only based on, the record. So because that exists in real life, if you're alluding to that, I'm cool with that, because it's realistic. Something more along the lines of, like, you're the chosen one, you could explain it being, the whole idea of they're giving you tomato cans, and they're trying to present you in the best light. So that, as long as you're not like too deep into, like, hey, these two guys didn't get along together in this other company in the back, or, like, if they played a lot of that, that's when I think that you lose me a lot more.
So exactly, and pro wrestling is in this realm of its own, because obviously if you're watching a Netflix or Max series, and all of a sudden there's a scene where someone says, well, you only got the role of playing this lawyer because you're friends with the director's wife. That just takes you out of the canon of the immersion of the story. You're like, wait, now you're talking about who was cast for the role? I'm immersed in this movie, and now you're telling me things that are completely unrelated. This does have the risk of that when you go, oh, John Cena, you didn't win world titles because you won matches, which is the story pro wrestling tells and should between the opening and closing credits without any interruption. Or I think they pay a big price. But they get cute with it and they can't help themselves. And they, we don't want to insult the fans by pretending it's real. And it's like, no, you're insulting the fans when you don't pretend it's real from opening to closing credits. But pro wrestling also has a sports vibe to it, which is, well, the GM told the coach to give you starter minutes, even though there was a player who was better than you, maybe paid a little less, maybe wasn't that high draft pick that the GM's trying to prove was a good pick, not a bust, whatever it is. There, you can, you can play favorites. God, he got his first NBA minutes against the Timberwolves, and it was just like, I mean, it wasn't as bad as Ava in NXT, but my God, it was up there. So where was I?
Sorry,
that's okay. I thought you were having a sneezing, genuine, and I'm like, mute button if you're gonna sneeze that loud, Javier, and it's like, no, I get it. So but in sports you can say, the man upstairs liked you. He thought you would sell tickets. So you got opportunities, so you got title matches. So you got, and I think it's enough in that realm to not just pull people completely out. If Cody had said, the man the man who we don't speak about in The Office booked you to win all these matches against more talented people who the fans like better. Well, now you're talking about match finishes, and that's but if it's more vague, like opportunity, you were, given those chances. I mean, that happens in sports. I mean, that's quarterback controversies are in the NFL are just like that, So it's in a realm that I'm, if I think it's very counterproductive, I will speak out against it. I felt this walked the line actually somewhat, adroitly. And so it didn't trigger me. Now, we have some chat room comments on our discussion, Javier, and more points to get to. Let's pause and introduce ourselves and the show, and then we'll get back to more discussion, and we'll start incorporating chat comments. We also have a number of people on hold who want to join the conversation as video or audio callers. This is a Wade Keller Pro Wrestling post show for Monday, March 31st, 2025. And I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the long-running Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter, documenting pro wrestling even before the internet before there were podcasts. I was doing long-form Torch Talk interviews with pro wrestling's biggest names dating back to the late 1980s and sending out a weekly paper copy newsletter. Started on a typewriter even before I had a computer when I was in high school, and I've been covering wrestling ever since. And every form of media that's come around, from 900 numbers to podcasts, and now also here on YouTube, although we still have our paper copies going out every week, and still have, of course, our website, PWTorch.com. And I hope you're checking that out. PWTorch.com is where you can read my live reports on Monday Night Raw, AEW Dynamite, and WWE SmackDown every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, plus pay-per-view coverage like AEW this weekend and WWE coming up, and WrestleMania coming up, I should say, and also a bunch of other features, including PLE previews from Javier Machado. Speaking of which, he's my co-host. He's the other voice you hear on our podcast side and the face and voice you see and hear on the YouTube streaming side of things. Javier, welcome to the co-host chair for a big episode of Raw, closing out the a long European tour.
Yeah, it finally feels like things are moving forward, because the last 2 weeks, again, I haven't watched it myself. It's kind of felt like a little bit, what you would expect a European tour show to go is just put up some good matches. Didn't really feel like too many storylines moving forward, but it feels like we got three major movements today. So
someone in the chat said, this didn't feel like they were just leaving it to like two things to cover. We're revving things up. They know it's almost home stretch. It's borderline home stretch. Some might call it that. I wouldn't disagree. So you can, I mentioned we're both a podcast and YouTube show. If you want to watch us, if you're listening to us on the podcast side, which is the vast majority of you, you can watch us live on YouTube or on demand on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search PWTorch. Or you can find a link to our live stream, which is right after Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, and also AEW and WWE PLEs, and also the NXT crew hosting the NXT post show on Tuesday nights. You can find the link to the YouTube live stream in our TV reports at PWTorch.com. VIP members, full VIP members who have access to our ad-free VIP website can find not only the link to the live stream, but also the exclusive caller code to be a caller on the show. If you are a Patreon supporter, search PWTorch VIP for information on that, both in Spotify and Patreon. If you already are a supporter, you'll get a post that will give you access to also be a video or audio caller. We appreciate everybody who supports us with Patreon subscription, either through Patreon or Spotify, and also, of course, full VIP membership and through Apple. Okay, the other way to reach us or communicate with us is via email, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. That's especially handy if you watch the shows live and you know we're going to do a post show and we can include your comments, but you aren't going to watch our post show live. You're going to listen to it the next morning on your headphones or watch us later. You can still be part of the show that way. It's also a way to have a more elaborate email conversation or contribution, I should say, than the chat affords. So we have multiple formats, and we usually get to all three of them on our post shows. As always, you can subscribe to our podcast by searching Wade Keller on your podcast app. You'll see a red logo and a blue logo. Subscribe to both. The red logo is our post shows. The blue logo is our main flagship, pay-per-view previews, interviews, and flashbacks. Both are free to subscribe to. They are included in the VIP podcast feed through Patreon on our main website and Apple. If you're a subscriber, if you're a member, with the commercial breaks removed. That's one of the perks you get in addition to all the other perks that come with VIP membership, the exclusive podcasts and access to our newsletter and library and ad-free website. Full details on VIP subscriptions, by the way, at pwtorch.com/govip, pwtorch.com/govip. If you want to find out all the details on different ways to sign up. It's a good time to go VIP with so many big events coming up. One of the ways that you can sign up and go VIP is through that main website I just mentioned, pwtorch.com/govip. But you can also get a free 7-day trial if you go through Patreon or Spotify. Just search PWTorch and search PWTorch VIP. And you can activate a 7-day free trial and see what it is like to listen to these shows without commercial breaks, and then also get access to our VIP exclusive shows, which do include I host post pay-per-view roundtables with the PWTorch staff, usually Todd, Martin, and Rich Van, and sometimes guest co-hosts. And if you are interested in doing that in time for both AEW this weekend and then WWE WrestleMania coming up, now is a great time to do that and experience all the benefits of VIP membership. All right, so Javier, let's go back to our conversation about Raw, and I will go back to the chat and pull up a few comments here. First, we have a super chat from Lego creator Tony. Thank you for that. Hi, Wade. Hi, Javier. Thanks for the review. Longtime fan from Las Vegas. I made a website of wrestling highlights, music videos, and promos. Love to share it with you guys. Any feedback is always appreciated. Thanks again. Thank you, Tony, for the super chat and the kind words. Just send to the email anything you want us to take a look at. But good to hear from you. Okay. So as far as conversation goes, this is interesting. Lee commented the comments that we're just talking about before setting the table with our all the information we give at the top after block A. Lee says the comments were to get us all talking. The Vince McMahon Tony Khan thing, the ooh moment. But he also added today felt like they tried to be meta a little too much. It's like the direction keeps changing, and they're trying to cover every base. Kyle Fassel chimed in and said, "I like Cody kind of putting down how Cena left WWE, kind of saying it wasn't a great product back then." Javier, in a kind of big picture way, how have you felt over time with Cody since he came to WWE from AEW up through this week? How do you feel about the way that they reference his journey when he leaves WWE, which wasn't just AEW? I mean, it was quite a journey to get to All In Chicago and then AEW forming. Do you think they talk about that too much, or does it make enough sense? Just like Drew McIntyre left, they don't have to say exactly what journey he took to come back. Is it fine? And does it give AEW a little too much attention, or is it kind of Triple H kind of kicking sand on AEW when they're not as competitive as they look like they might be at one point?
Well, I think it's based on who his opponent is. With Cena, it makes sense because Cena's not really around all that much. They are playing into much older history with Cody being Cena's driver that was mentioned on the promo. So it kind of makes sense just to plot out the journey the two of them had. For example, if Cody were to wrestle McIntyre, I would expect that to come up, since it was actually which is for me one of the things that kind of took me out a little bit, but just because the knowing what I know, where he said that Cena said, "I'm the blueprint." And you did my blueprint. I'm like, man, they're even stealing Drew McIntyre's possible future stories, since it was more Cody more followed that path that Drew took once he left to reinvent himself and come back. So I think it works based on who you're doing, who he's wrestling. So like if you were to bring this up like with Gunther, it wouldn't make any sense. But and it wasn't even like it was as big of a story point as it was when it was finishing the story of Roman Reigns, because it was finishing the story. But it kind of makes sense in this case, particularly since the story they're trying to tell is the continuation of Cena was the top guy. He was the number one babyface of the company, and that's the role that the thing that he even mentioned when he feuded with Reigns, that's the person that Cena's been looking for all along. I mean, they even have an out with Cena if they want to turn him babyface, like as soon as the match happens, where that he was only pretending to be a heel to get the best out of Cody. You even have that out, but if you're going to tell that story of
tell that to the crying kids. Same with Xavier, man, that poor kid.
Yeah. But so that's I'm fine with it, with that story being brought up during this. It just shouldn't be the core of it like it was with Roman Reigns.
Yeah. The line from Cena, I have worked 100 times harder than you, and never once was I protected from an audience or a superstar taking their best shot at me. That was a little weirdly meta, but it was Cena's kind of way of saying, well, if Vince McMahon, the man who shall not be named, chose me, I delivered. I wasn't protected. The idea, that people were mad at how many times Cena got to win and all that, I always thought that was kind of a silly reason to boo him. I thought there were plenty of reasons to boo Cena, but being booked to win when he was the centerpiece act, world champion, lead babyface, I thought was kind of silly and didn't really show a great grasp of how wrestling booking in the WWF formula, going back to Bruno Sammartino, works. And I don't think that's the reason actually fans rebelled against him, even if sometimes they said so. I think a cool wrestler that they liked who was winning a lot that would not have gotten brought up. But Cena, I think, was calling up in this comment, with Rock. People thought Rock was going to bury me. And he did that promo and threw my gear into the river. And it was like, ooh, poor Cena. He's destroyed. And the next week, Cena came back and was better than Rock at tearing Rock down and got the better of Rock during that. And Cena does have that to work with, which is one of the reasons, Javier, I was so disappointed the last 2 weeks that we didn't get Cody unleashed on Cena, because I just think Cena should be up for it. And if he's not, that means he's not as engaged as he should be, or there's some weird strategy going on to not let Cody have that moment. And I think Cody had a moment tonight with Cena that continues to help cement him. The angle at Elimination Chamber was a big part of it, but the follow-up had to be there, and of course WrestleMania is still to come. But there are moments when people get raised up to the next level. With Austin, there was the Bret Hart match going to the Hall of Fame, but there was also Mike Tyson angle. There was interacting with Vince McMahon. We've seen the video series with Triple H. The Mick Foley match really caused people to look at both Mick Foley and Triple H differently. And for Triple H especially, it was a validating moment in terms of his feud with Foley and standing up, going beyond how people saw him as Jean-Paul Levesque in WCW. And so for Cody, as we looked at the last 2 weeks, I thought it was cooling down what should have been an elevating moment at the Chamber. I think this reignited it. I think this re-elevated it. Cody seemed like Cena's equal, a worthy foe, just as Cena did for Rock. I remember, I'll say that I mocked Cena in the PWTorch newsletter when Cena was calling out Rock for going to Hollywood for two reasons. One, you're not at Rock's level. You never will be. You're not going to get a match against him. Stop trying. But number two, If you ever get an offer that Rock got, you'll go to Hollywood too. And I was right about the second one. Obviously, Cena put in a lot more years than Rock did before he went to Hollywood. But he did take that, and he wasn't a hypocrite. Cena would say, well, I stuck around a little more, and I didn't disparage WWE. Rock had to kind of distance himself from The Rock, call himself Dwayne, not mention pro wrestling, because he was a trailblazer. That's a whole other topic. But nevertheless, that history was there, and Cena rose to the occasion, and when he stood opposite of Rock and looked like he belonged and held his own, and then some, it helped Cena's legacy. I think what we saw with Cody tonight was needed to give a boost to what started at Chamber and what will continue at WrestleMania, Javier. I think Cody looked like he was ever bit the current day star facing the legend of the previous era. He looked like he belonged in that spot, and that's not guaranteed till you're in that moment. And tonight, I felt was more that moment than the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and importantly, he also I like it when you have obvious chinks in your armor. Own it before your opponent can take a shot at it. Mm-hmm. So I do like I got a lisp. I got this tattoo. It was probably not the best idea I've ever had. And saying, I'm human, particularly when you put it against Cena, because part of the problem with the complaint with some fans saying that Cena would just win all the matches, it wasn't just that he would win, is that he was kind of a Gary Stewed, where he was like the perfect person. He didn't have any weaknesses, and it was like, because that's where the whole meme of the 5 moves of doom came. Is like, Cena would get beaten up and then just boop. Hogan was kind of like that too. He would do Hulk up, and then just hit the leg drop, and that's it. It's over. And I think that also played into that. While with Cody owning the fact that he's not perfect, but he's still, the fans wrestler. It kind of like fits with what his dad, because his dad also didn't really, he was just he was a dude like one of us, except he wasn't. But you know what I mean. So I think that even though how he presents himself, that also helps the fact that I could be a little bit goofy, because we when he first came in, it's like, oh, when is he going to self-implode? When are the fans going to turn on him because of his, because Cody being Cody, and like he's owning Cody being Cody. So I think that it helps out.
And I reported that in at least one significant circle in AEW, when Cody left the room, his nickname was Sociopath, and that some veterans would kind of laugh at him because they didn't respect his EVP status as a leader of the locker room. They just didn't feel. And I get it. There's some professional jealousy, but Cody also was Stardust, and then he drew 10,000 people in Chicago, and then he got to, be an EVP. Then he's walking around talking to people like he had, accomplished what Steve Austin did, or Hulk did, or Bruno did. And so there's some eye rolls of Cody, and Sociopath was worried because of how he presents himself. And I think Cody is self-aware of the meticulous aspect of the way that he presents himself. There's an ostentatiousness that I think can cost him some fans, but there's a charm and a weird humility to all of this somehow that causes fans to forgive him for some of these aspects. But I thought it was notable that Cena was able to say, "You're a paint-by-numbers sociopath nepo baby who's so into himself." He had his wrestling gimmick tattooed onto himself for the world to see. He said his tattoo exposes he's a common fan like them. The Nepo Baby thing, I don't know if Stephanie is like in Triple H or like, whoa, let's not go there, as he says those things. But the Sociopath line, showed that wasn't off limits, that Cody's aware of that that aspect of how people interpret his presentation, and it is disarming for it to be, quote, allowed to be said. I assume Cena didn't go into business for himself, and I doubt if he did, that Cody would be all that mad about it. I think he probably has a sense of humor about it, because they built a whole gimmick around him once about looking in the mirror and telling people how to groom themselves, that he is so into his presentation. So Cena went after that, and then as noted in the chat, there's a point where the fans turned against Cena. And I kind of had an brief moment. Jack Reeves said, wasn't a good sign that by the time Cena was done, he was being cheered and Cody booed. But it was for a short period of time. and Cody got them back. Did that stand out to you, Javier? That there's some pro Cena, anti-Cody sentiment, and did you notice Cody recovering pretty quickly from it?
Yeah, I did notice that, but I didn't know because the crowd was kind of like, some people were like, let's go Cena. Cena sucks, and not so much like there are some Cena fans who are still going to be cheering him. And so I'm like, this is just the Cena fans while the doing this, and while the rest of the fans are quiet. But yeah, then when I saw it go back the other way, I'm like, it worked out well, because the thing is that. And granted, this is now venturing further into the realm, less analysis and more into the realms of my opinion on the matter. Mm-hmm. While watching it, my emotions towards it was because when Cena would hit people like the way they would do it, what he would call burring, what people would call burring him, he hit some of those like marks hard, like the sociopath line and stuff like that. But it didn't really feel like it really hit, and I think that's because we've already talked about a lot of those things. Yet we still accept it. Besides the fact, we still accept it for it. So it didn't really feel like those hits that he took. They weren't light hits, but didn't feel like they drew blood. As like that one line with the Roman Reigns one, which I think they even took out of like the YouTube videos because it did so much damage to Roman Reigns when Cena went after him. I do think that it didn't feel like it did much damage to him, and I think people, I think people, the cheering for Cena came both. Oh, now he's doing what we like for him to do, tear his opponent down, and yeah, him coming back. Because I think that was right after that was when Cody came back with like, when you were at the top, people were leaving WWE. So
mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah,
and then those were like, I don't think I missed the Rock. I missed the whole Cena Rock feud, so keep that in mind. I don't think I've seen anyone go after Cena the way that Cody did. Maybe the Rock, but again, I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, I recommend it. So the line from Cody that from Cena that's being referred to is he told Cody to go to Fanatics after WrestleMania and buy a toy belt that fans buy and call themselves their champion, quote, because the last real champion is taking the belt home forever and exposing you for who you are, an errand boy who got lucky. That's your why, pal, because Cody asked John Cena why, and he goes, that's your why. You're an errand boy who got lucky. I raised the belt up to a level. You're walking around like you earned it, but in reality, you're just a bad sequel in a way. I didn't use that phrase. And that's when a Cena chant started. But Cody came right back and said, John, I didn't expect to say this, which I thought was masterful from Cody, because when you say, I didn't expect to say this, fans chanting Cena are going to go, oh, Cody's about to say something he didn't expect to say, either scripted or unscripted. It doesn't matter. It's like, this is a key moment. And then that's when he said, maybe I was chosen, but you know who chose me? They chose me. Can you say the name? Cena, or is one guy in an office who's not here anymore and we don't talk about the guy? And then he got an earned positive roar from the crowd when he said that. And then he said, my name is Cody Rhodes. I'm a wrestler like my father. And if anybody is a company creation, it's you, John Cena, not me. And he goes, everyone's terrified of you on the microphone. I'm not. And then he had the line about what's inside his jorts. And he says, if you want to, and then he made fun of Cena wanting to be 16 and hang out with Zac Efron. And by that point, the whatever point Cena scored and whatever were fans like, oh, maybe we want to cheer Cena and be rebellious. Cody got him right back. And it was masterful or I don't know, effective. It just was effective. I mean, it was an effective way to douse the little bit of a rise of maybe some pro Cena stuff. But by the way, as a sidebar, the let's go Cena sucks thing, that is not two groups of fans competing with each other. It's a bunch of fans wanting in Europe to want to have fun, and in outside of Europe too, have fun doing both parts of the chant because Cena's around. It has no emotional resonance. I don't think it's worth reading into. It doesn't mean they like him. It doesn't mean they don't like him. It means Cena's a star, and when you go to WWE, it's a communal experience to do chants, and that's a chant that we do both parts of. I said from the first time that happened after Cena's turn, I'm reading nothing into that going forward. Everything else counts. That doesn't. That's just people wanting to do it because it's what you do. It's like chanting, we want tables. It just, or this is awesome. You just, something you get to do if that wrestler or the situation presents itself. So quite a bit of good stuff there. And Kyle Fassel says, I forgot what was said, but I was surprised when there was one part of the promo where the fans were chanting Cena and almost seemed like they were going to turn on Cody for a second. And that is what we're talking about. obviously. And obviously Kyle noticed it too, even if he didn't remember exactly where it was. Dougie Dog says, if Cena wanted to cut deep, he should reference Cody taking credit for both the Bullet Club movement and the Roman Sammy surge when he just joined in the 9th inning and pandered to the fans for his win. Not a positive framing of Cody's role, but I think there's probably in the Heyman Roman Reigns camp, there might be a little thought of, hey, we like Cody. He's a professional, but Roman, and I'm saying this because of what Roman said on Friday, which is Roman just sort of laid out on Friday. I'm the reason, I'm the one who created that created the foundation of a $1 billion deal and Netflix and got Netflix interested. He'd hit all the bullet points of what the Bloodline accomplished. And the implication being Cody came in late and was a beneficiary of it. He benefited from what they had built. And I think Cody's careful not to go there. There's things Cody can brag about and to justify his top tier status and the fans cheering him and choosing him. But he did come in kind of like Rock did after Austin established things. Rock came into the Attitude Era, gave a boost to it, but Steve Austin and Vince McMahon and Mick Foley and Triple H, there are other people who built that foundation to different degrees, Austin being the primary one and DX being right there. Also, and Sable doesn't get mentioned enough. There are different things that were going on besides that. That's the same thing with Cody. He came in, but I think he elevated things to another level and gave them that lead babyface they needed in the way that Diamond Dallas Page, for instance, did for WCW at a time when they desperately needed someone to step up and counter the NWO. And Cody got to be that guy. And, Cody and DDP are friends, and they probably compared notes on certain things and see some parallels themselves. So to the comment of if Cena wanted to cut deep, he could have said that. That would also be Cena, getting to something you said, Javier, giving credit to the Bloodline, giving a boost to business after Cena left. Every top star, whether they admit it or not, knows a little part of them wouldn't be super sad if business went down when they left. They don't want to, not everybody wants to root for their friends to suffer and, make less money. But if you go away and business goes up, it can't help if you have pride in your job to go, wait a second, I was holding him back. I thought I was giving him a boost. And so if you're Cena, I don't know if you want to go there because, there's a pretty good retort. Javier, any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, well, unless you're the only one keeping the lights on, that's and then other people come in. So there is some wiggle room there. But I pretty much agree with what you said.
Okay. Sadler version 3 said, I feel like the crowd was ready to switch, but Cody had a great response. If Cody's response flopped, he would have gotten completely eaten up by the crowd. This promo was huge for him. And that's what I say, because is it masterful, effective? Maybe there's just sort of a word in between those two things. I don't want to overuse the word masterful, but it was effective and timely. And I don't know, it felt natural. It didn't feel like Tiffany and Charlotte, it's like, okay, I'm scripted to say this and I will manufacture this inflection. And then you will interrupt me at this exact moment. And then I will have this response. Like everything feels rehearsed. That's not the case here. This I thought had a natural, authentic ebb and flow. Javier, do you agree with that?
Yeah, which is really good because that's really where Cena threw off a lot of the wrestlers that he had these battles against, where they couldn't match Cena's tempo, cadence, couldn't fit what they were going to say. So it kind of really felt like, and CM Punk does this too, where since they kind of go a little bit off the cuff here and there, it would throw the people who were really scripted on what they're going to say off, and it didn't really feel that way with Cena. With Cody. Cody matched him. If this were tennis, Cena would be a great server, but Cody was able to return the serve. Yep,
that's good framing, a good sports comparison. Lee says a lot of things talked about in the promo. You have to know behind the scenes, know the two companies. Poor storytelling, so they're falling back on stories not every WWE fan understands. Again, I'm not hesitant to be critical when I think something gets too meta. That gets too reliant on inside information or even historical knowledge. But I think that WWE has built this brick by brick by talking about different people's legacies, and it's integral to Cena as a long-term babyface who's now turning on the fans. He's referencing his whole run. That's all part of canon. And I think fans know when you're a top movie star, getting all the movie studios, giving you all the top action series or Marvel movies, or, they know that happens. Same thing in sports. There's politics with who gets to be the starting quarterback or who gets to start in the NBA or get the most ice time in the NHL. I mean, or who gets to be the starting pitcher. I mean, in sports, that stuff happens. So to me, this just feels like they're pulling from sports. Again, wrestling falls in this realm, but they didn't fully break from it for me. So they didn't, it wasn't like, well, if Vince McMahon wasn't booking you to win, more deserving people who should have been given those wins and title reigns. Like, they didn't do that. So I think they pulled back from that. But this also, they're referring to things that happened that are in the WWE library. They're not talking about things that happened overseas 7 years ago that it's just a fraction of their audience even has access to know about. You don't have to research things. Everything is just, pretty clear what happened. Anything you want to add on that, Javier, and then we'll get to calls.
Yeah, because all you really need to know about Cody is that Cody was Stardust, left, came back, reinvented himself, came back, and that's pretty much it. That's you get that. What you need to know about Cena is that Cena is basically has had one foot, if not both feet, out the door already for quite a while, and he's just come back because he just doesn't think that Cody can do it. Now, I'd like to see where you now find out that play up more that it's a jealousy factor or the real reason why, because we still haven't gotten the real reason why because like I said, I keep going back to that Roman Reigns Cena because that it harkens back for me strongly towards that, because I think that's when Cena kind of created this character for himself that I'm waiting to pass the torch, but I haven't found anyone to do it. And that's kind of the narrative that was created. And now here you have a guy who's taken the torch in Cena, in Cody. Both start with C.
I've listened back and mixed them up, and I'm like, it's Vince McMahon saying use full names, don't just say last name.
Yeah.
Keep me out of trouble.
Cody, has taken it, and now. Did Cena really want to pass the torch? I think that's the question they need to ask now.
Yes, and the timing of it, like, I'd kind of like Cody to be like a journalist if no one's going to actually get to be a journalist asking questions of Cena, which that hasn't happened yet, in the way that the story's been presented and portrayed on TV. Have Cody go, when did you decide the fans were leeches, and when did you start? Were you faking it starting 10 years ago or 15 years ago, or did you just look from the sidelines? As your career took off, but also kind of found a water level for what you're going to be outside of wrestling, and then you're watching me. Kind of, people compare me to you. I mean, just Cody could say people compare us to each other. I'm the world champion, getting a lot of cheers. You were the world champion, getting a lot of cheers and boos. And Cody can't be the one to say, are you jealous that I get cheered by 100% of people in your note? But he can. There can be a reference to that, like there's a way to do it without it seeming like Cody's just bragging about himself. Because I do think what would make this Cena turn the most believable is the idea that, and people would understand it, which is he went away, thought business would go down, and then with the bloodline, it went up, and then that top babyface spot still wasn't filled, and now Cody has done it, and he's getting 100% of the cheers. And I could see that
while being goofy.
Yeah.
While being a bit goofy. So Cena has been.
So I guess, and there's, I don't know how much interaction they're going to have now, with each other going forward. I don't know if they need it, but that aspect of it, it's still, you sold out to The Rock. To what degree did you? Like, what are you getting? Rock was offering things to Cody. Did he offer those things to Cena? Is Cena living the high life now? Like, what's going on that Cena didn't get? Like, it was weird they reintroduced that, and there's no substance to it. Like, what is Cody getting for, quote, selling out to The Rock? Cody won. He won. He didn't need The Rock. He earned the title shot. He wasn't gifted that. He hasn't been given the benefit of getting to choose who the referee will be, or choose the stipulation, or choose what night he wrestles on. I don't know. Like, there should be something that tangible that Cena got for selling out to The Rock. But I started to be okay with them ignoring it, because who cares? This is about Cena, Cody, and the fans. Yeah, Javier.
Yeah, not even a movie role.
Yeah.
They could say, "Oh yeah, he got me a role in this new movie." That explains that.
But even
that something.
And I agree, at least something if you're going to bring them up. But then there's part of me that's like, Cena isn't turning on the fans because Rock tempted him with riches and fame. Cena has riches and fame. So the point is Cena did not turn heel because Rock tempted him with a better life. Cena turned heel based on everything he said the last few weeks because he resents the fans. And so to me, that's where the focus should be. And that's what's clunky about this, because it was a bit of an audible. I think that Dwayne The Rock, Final Boss Johnson conjured up in his mind Cody turning heel, joining him, and it all would have made sense. And when there was a big pushback to that, Cody said no to it. Rock, to his credit, didn't push the issue. He could have perhaps more. This was sort of the B plan that was, an option, but not fully logical based on the foundation set. But I still would like to hear a timeline. When did Cena start feeling the way he did about fans? And then you can call him out for being a liar, a hypocrite, or the false pretense of blaming the fans, when in reality it's just jealousy over the success Cody had when Cena was gone. And to me, I think that's still the top, unless it turns out because how they want to turn Cena back babyface, they can't go there, and maybe there's something to that, and I have to think that through, or we'll see it. That to me is the best core trigger point for Cena. Is he says he resents the fans, but in reality he only resents the fans today because they embraced Cody more than they embraced him, and that Cody's having success at a level higher than Cena did, and they can allude to that without Cena admitting business is better with Cody than him. So that's still there. I don't know if we'll get it. I'm at a point of contentment with how much they covered tonight, though, Javier, compared to where I was the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I do need before WrestleMania is to find out The Rock's involvement, because that's at this point it's what is it? Because does maybe The Rock put up some stipulations that benefit Cena over Cody for the match? So something along those lines. Cody has to wrestle with one arm behind his back, something like that. Yes. That would make sense, that if the deck is stacked against Cody, but I would have liked to have seen some movement in that direction already, if that's the case. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because what would have made sense is if The Rock, actually, you know what, they could have and this is something they could have already had done, that the only reason that Cena was in the Elimination Chamber, didn't have to qualify for it, was because it was The Rock who pulled the strings. That could have been a story you could have already told along,
it's just the timing still wasn't there, though. I mean, because Cody, unless the idea was Cody, and I think this should be, if they were to write like if Pro Wrestling Illustrated of the 1980s was still writing stories, filling in basically they'd write articles as if wrestling were real, as if it was Sports Illustrated or Sporting News. They'd write articles as if it was real, which is it was very fun as a fan growing up to have these really good writers with journalism backgrounds, but pretending wrestling was real. How would it be covered? And they would fill in that gap. And I think they would be saying, yes, our theory or our sources tell us that had Cody said yes to The Rock, that Cena and Rock had already worked out a deal, and they would have just attacked Cody and mocked him forever for selling out the fans. But not, they could say that. WWE doesn't have to explicitly say that on TV, although it could come out that that's the case, because then that wouldn't make sense. Then you could go, yeah, Cena wasn't this impromptu fallback plan after Cody said no, or the second choice. He was always with Rock, or had been with Rock for a while. Their egos, their Hollywood egos got together. Cena benefited once Rock got in executive position. They started whispering in each other's ear about certain things, felt they had things in common. And then they worked this out, this whole retirement tour thing that was supposed to be for the fans, but it was really a chance for Cena to stick it to the fans. So that's there. Some chat comments here. Sadler version 3 said, Wade, I think the part should be explained in a backstage interview promo with Michael Cole. I think it's best to explain that without fans interrupting him. Yeah, for sure. And I think there's room for a different format here. And I'd love to see Michael Cole sit down with Cena and cover all these topics. What has Rock done for you? When did I'd love to submit questions for that interview for Cena in canon and storyline. When did you turn on the fans? What did Rock give you? What if Cody had said yes? Where would you be today? Would you have continued the facade of liking the fans, or what? I mean, some of those questions you might not want to ask because there might not be a good answer, but I think there's good enough answers to most of them to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, I'll even take one of those. I know you're going to hate me for this one, Wade. One of those scenes with like the music playing in the background and Cena and The Rock. This is what happened. Kind of those cinematic scenes. I'll even take that one of those at this point. But I'd like to. I'd definitely like those I's dotted and those T's crossed.
Yeah. Okay. Derek Mitchell says, what more could The Rock offer Cena? He's the voice of Honda and one of the voices of McDonald's, stars in movies and streaming services. What is the motivation for Cena to join with Rock? Exactly. But they could. I think there's room there to come up with something. Maybe they don't like it enough and they think it's a distraction and they don't feel like they're being scored on a completely logical story. They're being scored on crowd response and ticket sales and how many people watch. And having all the I's dotted and the T's crossed probably isn't going to change business. It's just refining the art form so it gets sort of better. It's looked back on as a complete, well thought out, well executed story, not just mega successful.
Well, my main reason for the dotting of the I's and crossing the T's is mainly because we know Rock is going to be involved in some storyline at some point down the road, and I don't want to think like it's just like he's going to show up, just throw like stuff at the wall and then just leave. Yep. Because that's kind of where we're at with this story at this point. Yep. Even if it's not a satisfying answer, at least some sort of answer leading to whether it's going to be a Cody Rock feud a year from now or what have you. It's something needs to be touched. I know that you want the spotlight to be on Cena and Cody, but I kind of want to know that there's something in the shadows. And I haven't heard anything in the shadows as far as this storyline is concerned. And I think there needs to be, because The Rock is in the shadows and he's, he is the shadow that's been cast on this whole story.
And their rationalization might be, we don't want Rock casting a shadow. We want these weeks to be about Cody and Cena. The problem is, by not addressing it, it's still there. It's not like you're drawing attention to something fans aren't likely thinking about. In fact, it's a distraction that it's being ignored, and embracing it, addressing it, framing it in a context would allow fans to go, okay, I get it. Now I'm going to pay attention to Cena and Cody exclusively because I got that answer. But now people are wondering, are we supposed to forget that happened? And like last week, I was thinking, well, maybe Cena didn't sell out to The Rock. Cena just looked at Rock, and Rock looked at him, and Cena's like, should I take him out? And Rock's like, yeah. But it isn't Cena accepting the same offer Rock gave Cody. It's just Cena turning heel, and Rock happened to be eyewitness to it and approving of it. And if so, that's fine too. But that should be explained also.
The positives, since they brought up The Rock and you sold out to The Rock, I'm hoping that in the next week or two we do get that sit down interview and Cena explain or what's going on.
Lee in the chat said 4 months ago or so, it came out that Rock wasn't appearing at Mania. The Damage Control was Dwayne tweeting, don't believe it, but actually, it is where we are. He came in and threw his weight around and left. Sadler version 3, is Rock surely returning? What if his sole purpose was just to turn Cena heel? Cena turning alone at the Chamber would have gave him cheers. Rock and T. Scott being there made the attack have a heel tone. I'd be okay if Rock doesn't show up in the Cena Cody story again and he shifts to something with Roman instead, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like Cody versus Cena. Rock versus Cody. There's still money there. So we can see. Okay, let's go to calls. We will start with Rivers. Rivers, welcome. Audio caller, who we've heard from before. Good to hear from you again. What's on your mind about tonight's show?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good.
So the speech, the promo at the beginning was great. I don't really have much to say other than I was worried when John first started speaking that he was going to do too good of a job, but Cody did bring it back. The only downside maybe is that they both tore each other down too much, because now I kind of like them both worse a little bit. Cena brought up things that I wasn't thinking about Cody, and Cody brought up things that I wasn't thinking about John.
For instance?
I don't think of Cody as a Nepo baby. Like, I know he is, but that trajectory doesn't seem to be something I link with Cody. And often being the son of Dusty in Vince's promotion would maybe not be ideal. So I don't see him as a Nepo baby, even though I know he is.
That's why I think it's safe to go there. Honestly, I think that's
sure,
because
yeah.
Cody, Eric Watts was a Nepo baby. Bill Watts pushed him like some guy who every teenage girl is going to have a poster of in her bedroom, in their bedrooms. It was just weird and off-putting, and really made people look at Bill Watts differently. David Sammartino probably got more chances, but just wasn't very good. Teddy DiBiase Jr. maybe got a leg up, but got cut. There's no guarantee if you're a Nepo baby that if you don't draw money, they're not. It's like, I was going to say you can be the son of the greatest basketball player ever, but it doesn't mean you're going to be a starter. If that's how people look at the LeBron Bronny thing. Cody didn't get to be a starter. He barely got to keep a job, and he got frustrated. To me, like, if it was so obvious that Cody had no talent, no fan following, no charisma, that'd be one thing. But it isn't. Like, Cody kind of, I mean, yes, he got to, stand on the Hall of Fame stage at the podium and show off that he wasn't camera shy and he had a charisma to him and all that. But I mean, I don't know. He seemed like he earned it, like Randy Orton earned it through time. So I don't know. To me, like, I'm okay with that being brought up because it doesn't ring true, and it's a heel saying it. And when it doesn't ring true, you're planting a seed. But fans are like, yeah, Cody's earned it for me. If he got a little leg up, so be it. He worked that. He finished that match with the torn pec and against Seth, and he won me over then. Or he started his own company, was successful. He won me over then. He got himself over. I'm okay with it. Javier, we'll go back to Rivers for more examples, but about that one, Javier, what do you think?
Yeah, Nepo baby is one of those terms I've come to really hate because it's very open ended and is used. When I'm thinking about someone who's really nepotism is very important, is a core thing about them. I'm thinking about like Ava, for example, who has not shown that she's got like talent. I've caught a few segments and she's like turned the TV off bad for me. And I'm like, so you have that level. Dustin Rhodes early on would fall under that because he hadn't, he was put there earlier. You could almost say that about Dominic, like his first couple of weeks, even though he wasn't really doing much, it was just getting beaten. But look where Dominic is now. These are people who have, famous parents, and they had an easier road in some, to get into it. But they've shown that they can hang. They've actually sacrificed, and particularly like on the Cody side, because Cody, you had the whole legacy thing, but it was legacy, right? That's what they were called. Mm-hmm. But yeah, yep. So yeah, you did have that, and you had you had Orton and DiBiase and all these people who came in, and it didn't work, and then they went out and they rebuilt themselves, and we see Cody as a self-made man. Yes, he had a lot of advantages because of his family, but he could have just disappeared in the indies had he not reinvented himself and done what he does. So that that gives you something. It's different with like Charlotte, because Charlotte kind of hasn't gone to the wilds basically. Yeah. So so I think that's why I don't like that term as a catch-all. Because you're really, some people really, yes, I'll say again, you had an easier time than others, but you still have to show that you belong, and these people have. If you don't look like you belong, then you shouldn't be there.
Jack Reeves said Cody may have had some nepotism when he debuted, in the sense that he got called up earlier than most, but he went away and became more popular than I thought he ever would, and he earned it. Also, by the way, if a Nepo baby is somebody who gets promoted within a corporation to run it when they're not qualified and they're not the smartest person around, that there's something parallel in pro wrestling. Oh, you're not the best at what you do, and compared to everybody else, and you're getting pushed in TV time. But the component that is there that makes it in wrestling, that makes it a little more okay, a little less of a stigma, is family legacy is marketed to fans. Like Dom and Ray, that's a relationship that makes money because they're father's son.
The bloodline.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, family is a storyline. So I don't know. I mean, there are cases of Nepo babies, and every situation is different. I think somebody asked, earlier in the chat, where would Cody be if not for Dusty? He might be exactly where he is. And I think that's a pretty high compliment. It was Kyle Fasto said, think Cody ends up where he is if he wasn't Dusty's son. I'll just put it this way. Can't rule it out. Because of the path he took.
assuming that he has the love of wrestling, because granted, if you're exposed to something early on, it's particularly in the like the lucha culture, Penta's kids are already doing wrestling moves, and I think they've been in shows too.
Yep.
So it's also you're getting an earlier start. You have a parent who knows how to do things right, so you're being coached better. So yeah, you do have an easier in there. But like, let's say Cody didn't have, loved the business, but didn't have the Rhodes name to fall back on. I think he'd still, do something. So.
Yeah. Jack Reeve mentions what I brought up. Anyone that saw Cody talk at Dusty's Hall of Fame induction, even though they knew he could talk to a crowd, knew then that he could talk to a crowd and hold attention. Yeah, I mean he.
Actor Nicolas Cage. Who knows? Our listeners are smart, so they probably know. Who knows that he's related to Francis Ford Coppola?
You want us to do a poll?
Yeah.
I'm saying in general.
I know. It was just funny silence. Like, let's wait for everyone to let us know. And like, wait, we have no way to gauge that, Javier.
So
they're not all in a room cheering. Like they're only one person is with us. Yeah,
and why? Because he didn't want that coming along with him. Do they hit Braun Breaker heavy that he's the son of the Steiners? They do talk about it, but they don't hit it heavy.
Yeah,
I just think it's the type of insidious comment which isn't a complete burial or a slam, but it just puts an asterisk next to your name.
Sure.
Like it doesn't necessarily like negate all the good things you do, but if you get called that and people then recognize you as that, no matter what you do then, it always has an asterisk of, but where would he be if it wasn't for his dad?
It's like Hogan didn't want people talking about his bald spot. Dusty didn't like people talking about him being fat. Like top stars have just something that's meant to be a little off limits. I don't think Cody is insecure about it, and I don't think he should be. But I understand your point.
Yeah.
But he talks about his dad a lot. He's not running from it. I mean, he talked about his dad a little too much. I think it took it a little too far in terms of how often he was tearing up talking about his dad. And that's not to diminish the father-son relationship. It's just from a pure optic standpoint, I felt it was starting to backfire and look like he was leaning on that too much. But I think Cody isn't insecure about his place because of the journey he had to take and because of how talented he is. And crowds do not cheer you because you're the son of a legend. They oftentimes resent you and boo you, and you have to overcome that. So while there's advantages, there's also disadvantages, and he succeeded. What else, though, Rivers, stood out on the Cena side, maybe, or the Cody side, if you want to add to it?
Also on the Cena side, obviously Cody's neck tattoo, plenty of people have made fun of it. Mm-hmm. Cody himself has made fun of it. But John mentioned something which I think we probably were aware of, but it cuts a little deeper than anyone else to mention the fact that I guess he was kind of calling him a mark, if I can use that term, for himself, in that he put his own gimmick logo on his neck. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't about the placement. It wasn't about that it was a bad idea. It wasn't even that it was an ugly tattoo. It cut a little deeper than usual.
Yep.
For me. Yeah.
Yep.
Who I actually wanted to speak about was Gunther and his whole segment. So first of all, Jimmy, turns out he bleeds really well. Don't know if we were expecting that.
Yeah.
I think we all thought that would happen and it would inspire Jay to, rev up again just before Mania. But just before it was happening, I kind of convinced myself that Jimmy might win. And I thought it was a cool idea to have the one brother that doesn't have the shot, that hasn't earned it, just happens to have Gunther's number and he can win. And then the actual brother who has earned it, has the shot, it just cannot beat Gunther. I thought that was interesting. But since it went down how we thought it would go down, do you guys think that they did enough to rev this up again and make it personal?
Javier, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I wrote down, they showed the interaction between Gunther and Jimmy Uso. They showed Jimmy Uso getting ready. Jay showed up and said he'd feel better if he were up there with Jimmy. Jimmy hyped Jay up. Jay said, just be careful. In a way that if this were a movie, Jimmy is sure dying in the next act. That was so heavy. I'm like, Jimmy not making it out of this episode alive. Yeah. And sure enough, That's probably. I think that was probably my favorite segment. I do think. I think it was heavy-handed, but I don't know. It worked for me, particularly when they went for the blood. And at first, I thought that the blood was incidental. Because I looked, because I was writing the write-up thing on this, and I looked away and I looked back, and then it's like Carrie and Gunther's covered himself head to toe in blood, and I was like, wow, I'm like, I'm assuming this is the one that they took the one of the two that they took the main event away from, since the Reigns CM Punk Rollins match is going to be one of the main events. This felt like, hey, look, we're taking your main event away, but we're going to let you use blood on this one. So I'm like, okay. And I thought it was very effective. I thought that, granted, it's probably because I have a brother, but like, being tied up and watching your brother get murdered in front of you and you can't do anything about it. Jimmy also wanted to be, there, even though he was dead, coming back for more because, he wants to be with his, doesn't want his brother to be embarrassed and, but ends up getting killed for it. I thought it was probably a scotch over dramatic, but I love that stuff. So.
Gunther also tasted the blood and then acted very sheepish afterwards. I don't know if he realized he wasn't supposed to, but very quickly he spat it out and didn't do it again.
Oh, funny.
And I wonder if, I don't know if this is the first time they used zip ties, but it seemed odd to me or notable that it wasn't just handcuffs. I wonder if that's a UK thing. I don't know if you can buy them, or I don't know if you can use them, because they use zip ties instead of handcuffs, which seemed a little clunkier.
I think they've used zip ties in wrestling before. I don't know where, or if it's tied to a region.
Well, Darby Allin uses that a lot.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if they expected that much blood. Yeah. I don't think there's a technique, but sometimes Lex Luger was supposed to bleed profusely and against Ric Flair, and they were going to stop the match. He was about to beat Ric Flair. I can't even do the math. 35 years ago, and then he barely bled, and it ruined the finish because they're playing off the Maryland Athletic Commission stuff. Sometimes you blade and nothing happens, and other times you blade and way more happens, and it just depends on the artery you hit and what's going on. And if you don't get a lot of practice, which back in the day wrestlers had a lot of practice, as evidenced by Dusty Rhodes' forehead, Abdullah the Butcher's forehead, King Curtis Ayaki. I mean, there's so many people who just Tommy Rich, Eric Embry, on and on. I'm like, all these terrible scar tissue images are coming into my head that made the covers of so many magazines on the newsstands in the 1980s. I don't think they're practiced enough to know what's going to happen. It's possible we don't see. Maybe Netflix executives like that was too much and they're mad, or maybe they're like that was great because there's a lot of gory things on Netflix. But it just depends on what do people think they're signing up for when they push play. As Jack Reeves said, bleeding is not the goriest thing currently on Netflix. No, there's some absolute gore on Netflix, but what do you sign up for when you push play on Raw? Probably not that.
We also didn't see the aftermath. They hung on Michael Cole for a long time, and we didn't see Jay getting cut free or them removing Jimmy. So it makes it seem like there was an audible call to be like, no more of that. We don't need to show him just laying there in blood.
So to answer your initial question, I think it does rev it up. I mean, of course it revs it up. It had a lot of momentum early on, and then the idea was is Jay, losing his confidence and stumbling literally into WrestleMania, and now Jay has a whole new motivation to go after Gunther with a whole new form. If WrestleMania happened last week, I don't think they needed this angle. I think or 2 weeks ago, I think this had enough momentum, just Jay the underdog against arrogant Gunther, but because of how far off WrestleMania was, in a sense that it was cooling off, this of course revs it up to a degree. Javier.
Yeah, I mean, my only complaint with this is I kind of wish WrestleMania were this weekend, because what are you going to do for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah,
I mean, you could stretch, because it's 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
because you could stretch 1 week, just like he's just because you could do to promote the match. This was your heavy promote, and then in the next one you just have one interview or even just a video. You could skip 1 week, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But like 2 weeks, that seems like a bit much. But we'll see how they. I'm like hyped for it. I tell you what, I was really disappointed in the build up for this match because it was just the same thing every week.
Yeah.
Jay like, oh, I can't do it. Oh, Jay, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm like, yeah. At some point, you're gonna. I can't. I can't.
Do you know what you've unleashed in me now, Gunther? Do you know what you've unleashed in me with that attack? Like, I think he's given fans a reason to think whatever doubts Jay had that you're talking about, Javier, he doesn't have anymore because they're irrelevant because he has a whole new incentive.
Yeah. I mean, I know you don't like this, Wade, but this would be one of the few times I'll be like, I'm gonna kill you, Gunther. Because it's personal. Now it's personal. I want to hurt you. I want to break you. I want to, you went after my family. You almost took out my brother. This is a moment where, like, I'm out for blood. I'm gonna take you as close to death as I can. I'm not gonna do it, obviously, because that'd be evil.
I would.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm gonna. And I wouldn't say I'm gonna. And I'm against people saying they're gonna kill him because Scott Hall convinced me that's a dumb idea. Although I think I thought that earlier. I'm against it because I think it takes people out of a realm of believability. No one thinks you're gonna kill. That's Scott Hall's point. It's not like. It's just no one believes you. So now you've said something, and as a babyface, you're not going to do it. So, but if he goes, I'm going to beat you so badly, you're never going to want to put on wrestling boots again because you're going to have nightmares over what I do to you at WrestleMania. That's believable. That's plenty. And it fits the tone. Like, you're there to beat people up in the ring, promise something you can deliver on, and then talk about the ramifications of that beating that resonates as true. So I would still say, no, don't say I'm going to kill you because everyone's going to be like, oh, Jay's really mad, and now he's saying he's going to kill someone. And I know it's a figurative thing, but when it's used in place of something believable that actually would land with people as possible, you're going to, quote, sell more tickets that way than saying something nobody believes is going to happen. Don't say things that aren't going to happen figuratively or literally when there's better options that are in the realm of possibility. Jay going, by the time I'm done with you at WrestleMania, you're gonna never want to put wrestling boots on again. You're going to have horrible nightmares over what happens in that match that's going to haunt you and cause you to switch careers. And people are like, I want to be there for that. I could see that happening.
We can also say Barry now, according to John Cena. We're allowed to just say Barry on TV.
Well, it's a play. I mean, in that sense, a play on words. They were going for more than it was the best word. By the way, Durrell, pause for 1 second. Durrell in the chat says, Jay needs this because he was hot, but didn't have anything to grab onto. Gunther needed this as well because now it gives him some heat behind him now, and it makes fans want to see him lose because of him. I do wonder, and maybe this was planned on a pacing the storyline out sheet a month ago, but Gunther taking that slap, it got Jimmy over, but it also kind of was like, ooh, Gunther badass. He soaked it up and spot. Like, you also wonder, are they just trying to get heat on Gunther again so he's not this cool guy, but instead he's this cruel, brutal bully, as Michael Cole called him. Anyway, go ahead, Rivers.
A couple of little things. They advertised Backlash with a picture of John and Orton, which doesn't bode well for Cody at WrestleMania. I'm sure they wouldn't make that mistake, but there was just two people on the little chyron on the bottom, and it was Cena and Randy. So if that does mean anything. What do you guys think of the UK crowd specifically? I've been a little let down. I thought, because they haven't been as hot as the European crowds, and I'm worried that they use that as a reason to not give us a Mania and give it to Saudi Arabia instead. Because, no offense to anyone else, we deserve a WrestleMania before any other country. But yeah, what do you guys think of the crowds in these last couple of English or UK shows?
I think they were good. I think they were trying Cody's patience in his promo because I think singing the name of the wrestler the way that they were doing is the new what chant, in the sense that it really annoys wrestlers because it breaks up the rhythm of their promo. And Cody didn't want to turn on him and make news, so he just listened, but he didn't endorse it. He didn't encourage it. He just was like, okay, you're done now. We'll continue. So I think, but that was going on the whole tour. And I'd just say, I know it's a thing, but pick your spots and don't interrupt an epic, historically significant promo by singing. I thought it lacked tact. And people are going to be mad at me because, oh, but we're so proud of how enthusiastic we are. Pick your spots. Don't interrupt the promo. That was just, and I watched Cody's reaction to it. I think you'll see, Cody's reading, my reading of Cody was, Are you done? Okay, thank you. Moving on. But broader, I think they were fine. I don't think I don't think they were disqualifying in some silence to things. I think the booking hasn't been great in certain realms, like the women's situation. And so I think there's been some sort of muted responses, but that's more on Paul Levesque and his team than it is the fans of the country, I would argue. Javier, anything stand out to you tonight in terms of I mean, I certainly doesn't see the factors of where WrestleMania ends up in UK or Saudi Arabia first. I don't think will have anything to do with this crowd being disappointing.
Yeah, because this didn't get like a pay-per-view. Like we've seen pay-per-views, like Clash of the Castle was, off the hook, as the kids would say. Do the kids still say that?
They used to say 8 years ago. Taz started saying it 4 years ago, 3 years after the kids stopped saying it, and now Javier is saying it. Yeah, so
so I did find it muted when I was watching it. Now I'm like, I was kind of expecting, but I think it's just the product that they put out.
And they were there Friday, and now they're there Monday too.
Yeah, so I think it's mostly like the product. And I think they were just the chance we were hearing was more like, hey, this is when we do this. Here's when we do that. Yeah. And it wasn't like the wrestling was like out of this world either. So
real quick, Sadler said, yeah, Cody was definitely annoyed, LOL. Here is where I agree with European chants being annoying. I hate when they chant over promos. I feel like that's more of a UK thing, though.
A Brit living in America, we treat sincerity with suspicion. It doesn't come naturally to us. We think you're pretending if someone's emotional. So some segments, I think, need a sincere reaction from the audience. You're not going to get that in England. Like, it just doesn't suit us.
Then you have talked me into saying England should never get a WrestleMania. Good job, Rivers.
Yeah, I think that's it. The last match was a little clunky. I don't know if Rhea seemed weaker than usual, but I'll let someone else speak on that because I was kind of half paying attention to that match.
Okay. Well, great. Rivers, always good hearing from you. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
You bet. All right, we'll go to BJF next, and then David Miller on deck. BJF, welcome. Good to see you again. What's on your mind about Raw tonight?
Good evening, Wade, and I must say it's a pleasure and honor to be talking to Javier.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I just want to say the past few weeks of the European shows have felt a bit like a placeholder pattern. So a lot of them have been like a 1 or 2 segment show. What I liked about this show was we're finally on the home stretch of WrestleMania now. Every single... Oh, there we go.
It just happens to me, Jeff, when someone brings it up. I have no control over it. Right.
I could just listen to 2 hours of that.
It's like a wrestler running onto the stage and their music starts. Like, there's no stopping it. It's just there's a microchip built in. It just clicks and it triggers the sound system.
I say I've looked right now. Is Javier running in now to distract?
Yes. All right, BJF, you were mid-thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yes, so I was saying a lot of the European shows, they've been a bit of a placeholder. This really ramped things up. I counted at least 6 feuds that have been built or ramped up. We've obviously gone a lot into Cena and Cody. I have nothing more to add to that from your expert analysis. Jay and Gunther, Rivers had some great points there. I did like that Gunther has finally got that violence that he was promised.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking forward to that match now, a lot more than I was. The IC title, I'm intrigued by that. So where they're going, is it just going to be a Penta versus Braun? Is there going to be a multi-match with Judgment Day? New Day versus War Raiders, at least we're doing something with the tag team championship.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
That War Raiders are actually the tag champs. When they came out, I was thinking, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Me too, man.
Yeah.
By the way, that kid that Xavier stared at while waiting for the interview to start in the aisle, and he tried to knock the phone out of people's hands, or when they were filming him or taking photos, and it was like his dad had a phone in his hand, but he was holding the kid up, and the kid was just petrified, and the dad didn't know it because the dad is like next to him, and Xavier just stared at him like. And I mean, the kid's gonna have nightmares forever over it. It just was, man. I was feeling bad for that kid. But I give Xavier credit for holding his ground. If you go to a wrestling show, you should be prepared to be scared of heels. I think Javier, do you think we're heading towards Balor versus Dom versus Breaker versus Penta, a 4-way, because then you have one, you're finding a way to get them all on the show because there's only so many match slots, and you could argue all 4 deserve to be on the show. If you believe everyone who deserves it should be on it, then they deserve it. And you have the Liv being a shit stirrer, with Dom and Balor, so that can come into play, and then they can do Braun Penta one-on-one rematch. They can do one-on-one rematches on TV and on future PLEs.
Yeah, that would be probably my most likely guess for me would be that 4-way, maybe a 4-way ladder match with those guys. And the other possibility with Rey Fénix coming in is maybe Judgment Day versus the Lucha Brothers if they decide to do something else. But it likely would be the Intercontinental title with Braun Breaker and a multi-man match.
I hope they keep the Lucha Brothers. I hope they keep Penta and Fénix apart. Let them both be singles wrestlers. The tag division, there's enough talent and charisma there that they shouldn't be right away relegated to the tag division, in part because it's going to be hard to have fans look at. Like, Penta's benefiting from being portrayed as a formidable singles wrestler as opposed to one half of a tag team who's now trying singles wrestling. You can overcome that. Shawn Michaels did. Jey Uso is to a degree, but it's always there. Like with Shawn, no matter when you started wrestling, it's like, yeah, he was for a long time in the Midnight Rockers / Rockers tag team. You do get stigmatized. I think it's been a benefit to Penta that Ray's contract got held up, and let Penta be on Raw and Ray on SmackDown. Let them do their separate things, and then when they team up, I think they'll be, and I mean, a year and a half from now, there'll be excitement over these 2 single stars teaming up, and I think it'll mean more. So just a little sidebar there.
That would be my preference, Wade, for sure. But I could kind of see them like just for WrestleMania teaming them 2 up, and then if they're going to be doing like a draft afterwards is when you split them up. Yeah. So you get that one Lucha Brother match out of the way, and then you can them together. I could see them
still saying they're tag wrestler brothers, and they're trying.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I agree. I'm totally 100% on your side with this. I'm just putting myself in their mind. I could see them wanting to do that.
Fair enough. Beat you up, back to you.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Wade. The Lucha Brothers should be kept separate for now, especially with Fénix being advertised for SmackDown. I've always found them a lot better as separate people, going back to the days of Lucha Underground. So what else we got? Oh, it was good to see Tyler Bate back. I'm glad he's back from his injury. He's looking dapper as well, better than the Timo Sami Zayn look he had before he left. And I really liked the Paul versus AJ interaction. I just want to see Logan Paul get his bum kicked now, and just by existing, I want to see Logan Paul get his bum kicked. So I enjoyed that. And then the last one that was built up was the women's title. It's been very clunky.
Yeah,
we're not really sure if Bianca and Rhea are heels or faces or what's going on. People love Io, but at least we're getting to that triple threat match that we all know is happening, especially Michael Cole saying, we all know it's Io versus Bianca at WrestleMania. It's like, yeah, mate, you're not leaving off one of your biggest stars of the last year at WrestleMania.
The story is that Rhea won't be at WrestleMania, but it is so clear she's going to be part of this match that it chips away and challenges at the credibility of Michael Cole for being like the only guy who doesn't see that's coming. But it's the bookings problem, not Cole's problem. There's no way around it. Cole shouldn't reveal the ending because there are some fans out there who aren't assuming that's the case, because people assume Jey Uso couldn't win the Rumble and he did. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's people who are like, oh yeah, poor Rhea, she's not going to be in the Rumble, and now she's going to be really mad, and that's going to be the story. So you don't want to ruin it by tipping your hat overtly. But most people see this for what it is. They're trying to set up a situation where Io Sky goes, I want them both, and Pierce goes, okay, if you insist, But I mean, Javier, what do you think of the execution of that angle with Bianca Belair as referee? I thought it was weird the announcers sort of justified Bianca just throwing the match out as a double DQ just because she was getting frustrated with getting hit. That's not really normally a reason a ref calls for double DQ. Usually it's why a second referee comes out to replace a referee who's been hit and is down and out. So I didn't think this was the worst chapter in a really bad story, but I mean, the crowd is more into Io Sky than Rhea Ripley right now. Ring introductions, crowd chants, crowd reactions. Why would they tell a story where that obviously had a chance to happen? Rhea was red hot, and people don't know how they feel about Bianca all that much either. She seemed kind of petulant like Rhea. So I still think this added to the bad look for all of them, but at least it moved us forward a little bit with an explanation, sort of plausible, that it'll lead to a three-way.
Yeah, where to start with this one? And it was Wade Barrett, who also was the one who said can you believe that she's not going to be in WrestleMania? He was the one who was giving the hard sell. My issue with this is, like, they're going to get to it, and it feels like they're just stringing me along. So I know that, from the moment that Rhea Ripley lost the title, I'm like, well, they're not going to just have Io Sky, because she hadn't been built up to that point, and versus Bianca Belair. The one who's been building up the entire year has been Rhea Ripley through her feud with Liv Morgan. So so you already know, if you're, I don't think you even need to be like as deep in the weeds as we are, that to realize that Ripley's obviously going to get involved. She's obviously going to be in the match. So why are you, once you know the answer to the mystery, why am I wasting my time waiting for the storyline to catch up, for the actors to catch up?
Yep.
That's like I've been I forgot what movie I was watching a review on, which is the issues that you already know who the bad guy was, and you're just waiting for the detectives to catch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you already know the answer. You already know that. You already know that they're an evil twin. Why? And you're waiting for the rest of the actors to figure it out, like 3 episodes down the road. And that's kind of what this is. Is like, we could already been getting into the personal issues between all of them. In terms of like what I think about the characters, I think they work outside of a wrestling. Like if this were like Lucha Underground, for example, it works because you could get into the more like the little interpersonal things. Like I like the idea of Ripley being frustrated because she lost this match. She took her eye off the ball. She also feels abandoned. There's a lot of story to go with her, why she's frustrated and acting the way that she is. But and some of it's been unfortunately being told on social media, which never made it on TV. So, you, from an outsider's point of view, she's just being, an ass. Same thing with Bianca Belair. So it's like, Bianca Belair has a lot going on. So I get where the characters are coming from, but I just want you to get to get to WrestleMania, start promoting WrestleMania, start making me want to have one of these people. I'm intrigued in their storylines, but the storylines I'm intrigued in is not making me want to watch them wrestle at WrestleMania.
Sadler Virgin 3 says, feels like they forced Io onto this card out of respect, and as a consequence, ruined the 2 biggest women's stars in the company. Ruined is a strong word, but damaged, and we'll see what they can clean up. Derek Mitchell says, I think people might be over Rhea's acting, petulant, trying to shoehorn herself into the title picture. I don't think they've done Bianca any favors. Io is the lesser of the 2.
I agree with Todd that Bianca's going heel. So that's it has to be. I mean, if it's not, then that's booking malpractice altogether. But I think that's part of it. I think Rhea Ripley could bounce back because she's just frustrated, angry. She's coming across more like the tweener of these. But me too. I'm also like on Io Sky because Io Sky's been the one who's being disrespected. She's the most babyface of all of them. And
we can't unsee Rhea Ripley acting this way as she continues to be pushed as a babyface. And with Bianca, my argument is not this is inconsistent with her turning heel. My argument is that her turning heel, and we'll judge it when it plays out, but my inclination is she should not be part of something this convoluted before turning heel. I think it's going to be hard for it to get re-engaged in the Naomi Jade thing and have it have as much of an effect as it could when now people aren't loving her, but instead, I think, feeling somewhat mixed feelings about her also. I think you're better off turning someone when you're loved and then you're hated, John Cena, so to speak, as opposed to let's spend 6 weeks making people not so sure they like Bianca before we shock them with a heel turn where they go, yeah, for 6 weeks, I kind of resigned myself to this possibility that she wasn't so likable. And I think that's sort of the emotional price they're paying to wedge Io onto the show out of respect, which I think Sadler's on something.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario for them would have been just a straight up Io Rhea Ripley match. And you could even have Rhea Ripley be frustrated and take a more angry role in that. And Bianca should just have been involved with the Jade and Naomi thing. So I don't know if it's that they don't have that much faith in that storyline. But I think that would have been the storyline that more people who are like into the drama of the friendship breakup, the more, CW-ness of the story, I think you would have ended up with a lot more people engaged with that three-way between those three women and just have Io and Ripley just one-on-one. I still hold that what I wanted, which was Charlotte and Rhea, I think would have ended up being a lot better. So
my vote had just been Rhea's a babyface, turn Bianca Belair heel, and have her get that title shot, and then have Bianca and Jay deal with things after WrestleMania. But I mean, I think really your scenarios are better than what they're doing. But we'll circle back and evaluate May 1st, give or take, kind of see where everything lands. One more comment, then we'll go back to BJF. Jack Reed says, Rhea lost her title because she was distracted. Bianca didn't actually get that involved to lose the belt. That's the issue for me. I feel no sympathy for her. Yeah, I mean, Rhea's not looking good here. All right, BJF, back to you.
Cheers, Wade. Just a few closing thoughts. You don't necessarily need to comment because I know you want to get to all the callers, but I'm looking forward to the fix this week because after Todd saying that he laughs at John Cena every week, I'm wondering what his thoughts of him this week. He seemed a lot more serious, a lot more passionate and less corny than he normally was. Sorry if there's been background noise again. My laptop fan is going nuts. I don't know if that's why you kept unmuting me.
Yeah.
And then finally, just one little random thing. You have all the Netflix people in the crowd as well, so it was good to see some UK people in there. One thing that I did get a chuckle about was when Michael Page was shown and it came up with Charlie Brocker underneath, and Pat McAfee was starting talking about how this UFC fighter has wrote the critically acclaimed dystopian series Black Mirror. So, and as a big Charlie Brocker fan, I got a little chuckle out of that. And as always, go VIP. Yeah.
Thanks, VJ. Appreciate it. Well done. PWTorch.com/GoVIP. Sign up with credit card, debit card, PayPal, Patreon, Spotify, your Apple account. All kinds of ways to sign up, different pricing tiers and benefits and distribution methods. And as we talked about earlier, you can also search PWTorch VIP in Spotify or Patreon and see what you think for 7 days with full access to our commercial-free versions of our free shows and all the VIP exclusive, including the aforementioned Fix with Todd Martin, the show that I host with Todd, and also Everything with Rich and Wade with Rich Fan, Alan Farrell's Pro Wrest Paradise. Got to give a shout out to that region of the globe with the Raw tour this year. He does a great job with history and looking back at older events and reacting to things going on in Japan and Europe. Also, Greg Parks Out Loud. Our post-event roundtables, on and on and on. Could go on. I won't go on. But a lot of cool things come with VIP, with a VIP membership. And that's not even getting into nearly 2,000 back issues of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter. Fascinating stuff, especially in the pre-internet era with our coverage of the Monday Night War in the 90s and what was going on in the late 80s and the early WrestleMania years. A lot of my writing, a lot of really great columnists, and a lot of big name, full feature-length, in-depth Torch Talks with behind-the-scenes revelations of what was going on in wrestling at that time with bookers, promoters, top wrestlers, rising stars, before they were stars interviews, all transcribed in those back issues. You can learn, and this was in the pre-wrestling book era. I mean, this was the Torch Talks were the first consistent window into people from the industry talking on record about what was going on behind the scenes. Just flat out, my interviews in the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter were pioneered people going on record in a way that broke kayfabe, and they're there in the back issue section. So lots of cool reasons to go VIP. That's another one of them. All right. We'll go to David Miller next. David, our new NXT TV Alt Perspective reporter, joining us again here with his thoughts on Raw. Good to see you. What's up?
Thank you, Wade, Javier. Good to see you guys. Want to touch on what I consider to be the three main talking points of the show. First of all, with the Cody and Cena promo, not a home run, but a very, very strong hit, I thought, this week. Much, much better than just letting Cena go on her own whining about the fans. I think they pulled the curtain back just a little, but they didn't actually yank it wide open as far as the comments, the references to Vince McMahon and Tony Khan. As far as what was spoken about earlier, I think there was absolutely no danger in Cena using the Nepo baby comment, because Cody clearly is not one. I mean, if you went, I know a couple of names were mentioned. You mentioned Eric Watts earlier. For some of you older fans, I'm going to mention a blast from the past. Wade, I know you'll know who I'm talking about. George Goulas. Mm-hmm. George Goulas was the epitome of that. For those, Daddy said sell. I know you know that reference, Wade, but Nick Goulas, the son of Nick Goulas, completely talentless, but was booked as a main eventer, and to the point where he was at one point booked against Harley Race for a 1 hour Broadway. And during the match, Race was having a hard time. It just was going through the motions, and that's where George Goulas made the infamous comment to Race during the match, Daddy said sell. Oh, my God. Cody. Cody is so obviously, I mean, no, he went through Stardust. He went through, what was it?
The male grooming gimmick, the Legacy era.
Dashing Cody Rhodes.
Oh, yes, Dashing.
Dashing Cody Rhodes. He made it through that. He earned his way out, and fans actually are behind him. And Cena was, I believe he was a product of the front office. But, he didn't go as far as saying, well, you were booked to win all these matches. And, but he mentioned that, he was favored more of a teacher's pet kind of situation. So I think they did an excellent job building up. The only thing that there was a slight mention of The Rock, but not enough. I think we still need to know what exactly The Rock offered him. Maybe we need to hear from The Rock soon. I don't know, but a little bit more needs to be touched on.
Or we'll live with this not being a well-told story regarding Rock, and we're better off for it not being brought up again. I'll live with Rock not being part of this, even if it doesn't round out the story. I mean, personally, but if there's a good chapter for Rock and they tell it, it can win me over.
Yeah, true. But that was an excellent segment there. As far as the Gunther Jey Uso situation, Gunther did in my opinion, he did exactly what I was hoping him to do, is literally take out Jimmy, give Jey a reason to personally want to just be he needs to go out there now. First of all, the blood, very well executed. I mean, Gunther and Javier, I'm really mad at you because you stole my line earlier. I was going to say Gunther looked like Sissy Spacek from the movie Carrie, just drenched in Jimmy's blood there, and just he looked savage, and just doing it right in front of Jey. He gave Jey every reason to come out there and say, look, now yes, I want the world title, but more than that, I want to hurt you, and I want to hurt you bad, and I want that more than I want the world title at this point. I think that was a strong segment. I do agree. I'm not sure where they're going to go from there in the next couple of weeks, because you got that space in between. To me, that was like the epitome of what needed to happen right before the match to make it personal. Yeah. But another comment, someone was talking about Michael Cole earlier. The announcers, in my opinion, play such an important part in some of these matches in conveying the seriousness of the atrocities that are being committed in the ring. And Michael Cole, showing Michael Cole standing up, looking thoroughly, disgusted with Gunther, it kind of brought me back to, when I used to watch wrestling as a kid. I grew up on Memphis wrestling. Lance Russell, whenever a heel would do something particularly appalling. Lance would stand up at his desk. He would be standing up and with his hands on his hips and saying, get this guy out of here. This is disgusting.
Well
the way
done, D.
Come
on. Yeah.
Oh
this
my
is going too far, Bill Dundee. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Oh, Jerry Lawler, what happened to you?
Yeah. Yeah, Lance was gold. I really feel sorry for the people that did not get to see Lance wrestle, because I thought he was a phenomenal announcer.
He was perfect for that Memphis studio show, and he worked. The little backstory. He worked in Memphis. They weren't a big territory with the biggest paydays, and so they worked with a lot of green wrestlers, and other people would travel through. But it was a very Jerry Lawler centric territory for a long time, and during that era, Lance Russell had to carry promos with the greenest of green people. I mean, and he did his best, and it's great footage, because if you look at it through the lens of Lance is having to carry this, and this person is nervous and doesn't know how to cut a promo, and Lance asked good leading questions, and it's just, and he was good calling matches too, and his inflection, is Joe Tessitore like, which is, we want to see a winner and a loser, and we want to see it done fairly, and if it's not, I'm offended. And that's what you're saying, David Cole was tapping into a bit.
Yeah, he was, and going back on that, I definitely remember Tracy Smothers in particular when he was first starting out. Oh my God, the most just atrocious interviews, but you could tell. But Lance was just literally holding his hand through the interview and help.
Tracy, I understand you went to college and you were a star football player, and on the basketball team you also did this. And one thing that you're known for is that it was like he would answer the question, and then the rest would go, Thank you, Lance. Yeah, that's all true. And also, you apparently are very aspiring, because you looked up to this wrestler and that wrestler. Yes, I did. Thank you, sir. Like that kind of thing, where it's just like Lance knew the guy couldn't talk, so he would just do all the heavy lifting. Yeah.
But I do see here lately Michael Cole tapping into that aspect of announcing a little bit more. The reaction he had during the end of the Elimination Chamber with the Cody beatdown, he was getting that, but Cole's doing a great job with that right now, I think. And the last thing I want to touch on, at first I was really against the three-way with Bianca and Io and Rhea, but it's kind of working for me now. The three have a good, even though, there is a little bit of a clunkiness there. I'm not sure what Rhea and Io were going for on that top rope. It seemed like Io may have slipped at one point. They did recover well, though, but I do think the three have chemistry together. And if there is going to be a three-way, Io is definitely the clearest babyface out of this trio here.
Yeah. Well, the fans feel that way, but Rhea was the biggest babyface before this all started, I would argue.
Yeah, before, but now, as someone mentioned earlier, she's acting kind of petulant and petty and all this. But Bianca, I don't know about her going full heel, because she just came off as such a sympathetic babyface with what happened with Naomi and Jade. So I'm not sure how she can make this transition, but I thought she did an excellent job as a referee, and I'm not really against her throwing the match out. It was getting out of hand, and so I can live with her throwing the match out. Now I don't know how they're going to insert Rhea. I'm sorry, go ahead, Wade.
Oh, I was going to ask Javier, what do you think of the way Bianca, her decision to throw the match out because she was getting hit and there was chaos? Because I argued against that earlier. I don't know that I got your thoughts on that.
Well, during that whole chaos, what she should have done is disqualified Rhea, because during the chaos, because there was a point where Rhea just hit her. It wasn't by accident,
right?
Because so it had already gotten to the point where, for her to cost both of them the match, that's where, it's one of those where I'm like, okay, I'm fine with how they, not fine, but, I understand what they were going for the finish. Mm-hmm. It's just like the ruling that what the announcer said, she should have just said, Rhea Ripley's been disqualified for putting her hands on.
I think they would agree that's a better finish, but then how do you justify keeping Rhea in the match, or putting Rhea in the match if she lost even by DQ? So I think they're trying to protect the storyline there, but it led to a finish that made less sense.
Yeah, there should have been, granted, and this is probably what they're not going for, is there should have been a moment where Io hits her or pushes her, or and that's when she has the final straw.
Yeah.
There should have been some interaction with them first, and then because the only one that actually hit her on purpose was Rios, which is why I think that at that point. But yeah, I mean, she could say, "Oh well, I felt like the when Io hit me, that was on purpose too." But at that point, now you're making her seem even more petty too. So you're just already there's like no way anybody's going to like escape like 100% clean out of that.
Yeah. All right, David, back to you.
Yeah, as far as Rhea inserting herself into the ultimate outcome, which is going to be a three-way, and everyone knows it, despite the announcers swearing there's not going to be. I think the only way that I can logically, because at this point, after Adam Pearce is just adamant, you're not in the match, you're not in the match, you're not in the match to Rhea, he can't just suddenly come out and say, okay, now you're in the match. To me, that wouldn't work. What would work better for me would be if Io went to Adam Pearce and literally begged him to get Rhea into this match. I want her. I want a piece of Rhea. I don't care. I'll beat them both. That's the only way that I think would be a logical way for this to turn into a three-way. What are your thoughts on it,
Javier?
Yeah, that's like the way that that's how I expect them to.
Yeah,
to,
I don't know how else they get
go.
there.
So yeah, I mean that's. Pierce can still say, "Oh, well, yeah, okay, we're this is too messy. We're going to do all three." That doesn't seem fair, considering the fact that one of them won the Royal Rumble to get there. And I think you can still get like some more, Io say, "Yes, I want this match," and then Bianca say, "No, it's not fair because it should be just a 1-on-1," and you can still get a little bit more mileage out of in the next 2 weeks with Bianca being upset of that's a triple threat, but ultimately the champion wants the triple threat, so you can still get a little bit more mileage, I guess, between then and there. But that's likely how it'll play out.
All right, very good. Anything else, David?
Just one more quick thing. I just Logan Paul. He's such a classic heel. Like somebody said, just the fact that he's breathing oxygen makes you want to punch him in the face. And there's just something about his character. He is so good at that. He's really, to me, more of a classic heel that he walks out there and you just want to see somebody. You want to see some kid jump out of the crowd and beat him up. He's just got that aura about him, and I like the interaction between him and AJ this week.
What do you think of that, Javier? So it was kind of paint by numbers, a likable veteran, legacy guy like AJ, and Logan being demeaning and disrespectful towards him, and Styles held his own, and Logan, as David said, was very unlikable. Anything stand out to you?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty much standard paint by numbers thing. Logan, ragged on the crowd in a not over the top kind of way, just but what I found impressive was I think that AJ, I got to go back and see it exactly what happened, but I think AJ Styles flubbed the line because it was when he was to say you shouldn't write checks your ass can't cash,
right?
And I think he said, because this happens to me all the time when I would use that line, I think he said you shouldn't cash a check. And then he realized he screwed up because there was like a pause there. And then Logan say, "You're right about checks." And he goes, because all these people, they can't write checks because, they're all poor. And then like it allowed AJ Styles to reset. And then he said, you're right. You shouldn't write any, and because I think that was what the flub was because Styles froze. And then, Paul did his thing, and then Styles just continued with the promo. So if that's what that happened, that was nice thinking on his feet from Logan.
Nice point. Cool, David. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on, Wade. Looking forward to doing the report on NXT tomorrow night. Everybody, check that out tomorrow on PWTorch.com. Thanks, David. By the way, if you are interested in rounding out our coverage of pro wrestling, we have a big team of volunteers who help us do what no one or two or three people can do, and also just provide a variety of opinions and perspectives. Volunteers welcome. Interested in being a contributor with weekly written reports and columns? Apply to join our team. Email me at kellerwade@gmail.com and let me know what you're interested in. We do have our staff page
that you can go to on our website, and it lists. If you click staff and contact info, it lists who's contributing now, but also what spots happen to be open. And so you can see if those interest you. There's some other ideas too beyond those that are listed. And if you have your own ideas, bring them on. We've got had some really cool features over the years. And that is the path that most people take to becoming co-hosts on this show too. So there you go. You're invited to join the team. And kellerwade@gmail.com. Javier, we got an email from JB from Detroit, who has a number of topics that we haven't covered yet. So it's a good way to kind of round things out here as we wrap up. He begins, bearing talent is objectively a meta phase. I don't know. I think to me, a meta phase is you were asked to job and you always whined about when the finish was given up behind the scenes, or like you didn't want anyone kicking out of your finisher. Like that to me is like way over the line. Bearing talent is, I mean, you can bury somebody verbally, you can rip on them. Even if you imagine wrestling, if you look at wrestling through the lens of being real, John Cena's got clout. I mean, it happens in sports teams. Yeah, the guy's got talent, but he's got a bad attitude. He's trouble. He's trouble's brewing. His ego is soft. He's partying too much. You could bury somebody and not have it. It's just stuff that happens. I mean, I know there's teammates in sports teams who bury other teammates because they want their time, or they want to win and they think they're ultimately not a good team player. All that kind of thing can happen. So I disagree with that.
Yeah, the phrase buried actually, I knew the phrase buried before I even started following wrestling closely.
Yeah.
So it just meant that, such and such, and I think that might have been one of the first times I heard it, such and such player was buried on the, the writer for the Miami Herald buried this player.
Yep.
That's where it comes from, because then I think then it evolves into wrestling where the bookers are burying this guy because they don't want to deal with him. I think it's more it's not necessarily a wrestling related thing. Yeah. Also, the other thing is a lot of those terms that we say, oh, you shouldn't call this person a mark, for example, because that word's was used in Cena used that term. That term is comes from the marriage of the con that is wrestling. Mm-hmm. Mark is a con man word.
Yeah, so it's a carnival term. You put a mark. I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently they put a little chalk mark on the back of somebody at a carnival, and that would be an indicator that they're susceptible to a con, that they can be fooled. Their money can be taken from them with a good con, and they would put an X on their back, unbeknownst to them. Javier?
Yeah. No, not from what I remember reading, it wasn't necessarily. It was some sort of mark, which is why it was called that.
Yeah.
And you would actually, whoever you're working with is, knows what the mark is. It could be just like dog ear or something, or like something you would do to them. But yeah, like that would be a good example. Like put a mark, chalk mark on his back. And
I mean, I heard the term in politics. People are a mark for some political candidate who's selling some notion that people who read a little more and are following actual sources that are delivering truth and not self-interested fiction, see the people who follow them and drive around with their stickers and their name written on the back of their trucks as marks, buying into the con. That's a recent example. There's plenty of other examples where I hear that. And you're right, even heel. Heel's it's an old school term. You kind of hear it more back when people said, I reckon, I reckon that guy's a heel. I mean, but it's a part of, it's not just a pro wrestling vernacular thing. Babyface is a little, I mean, people know what babyface means, but I don't know that you hear it a lot.
But it's, cherubic kind of look. It's, again, that's something that I think it more evolves in wrestling, but it's obvious, he's such a babyface and, looks like a baby, so he should be safe.
Yeah, I mean, babyface is a term. It's just not one that's used for grown men all that often in a context that means they're an admirable person worth rooting for. Okay. All right. Number 2, Cena did address why he resents Cody tonight. The problem is, he said it's because the fans see through his inauthenticity, which rings hollow because crowds go wild for him. I was okay with it, but I get the point in what JB's saying, crossed my mind. But I think the idea is seen as being hypocritical and unself-aware or deflecting or
projecting.
Projecting, exactly, which is speaking of politics, what we get a lot is, you say what you could be accused of doing wrong, and you blame the other person for it. So by the time they get around to blaming you for it, it sounds like they're the ones just calling you a name because you beat them to the punch, even though there's nothing behind it. And we see that projecting so much. I mean, people, it's a trait people have, but it's especially prominent in politics. Number 3, I hate that it took 20 minutes in the promo battle for Cody to address the main problem with Cena is that he sold out to The Rock, and it was really only a fleeting comment that they barely lingered on. Like I said, there's good and bad to that. I think it's a plot hole not to bring it up, but I wish there was a tidy way to address it and move on. They might be trying to lay low because they don't want to give away that Rock's going to be involved. They also might be laying low because they don't know if Rock is going to be involved at all, and they might be laying low because they felt they had to at least acknowledge it briefly, but they really want to move on. It could be any number of those or other options too, but we have to wait and see for that, Javier.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're like. I think most likely is they're in a holding pattern, wait and see what The Rock feels like doing. But it could be that Rock is going to cost Cody, and then Cena wins the title with Rock's help, and then you run the story until SummerSlam.
Yeah. Number 4, multiple AW references in the promo tonight. One with Cody mentioning that he got booed in a company that he created, and the other being Cena mentioning that all Cody has ever done was steal money from billionaire sons. Very relatable to the viewing audience at home and attending crowd. Number 5, why is one win over New Catch Republic, a tag team that was relatively new and hadn't competed together since last July, enough to earn the New Day a tag team title shot? I mean, it wasn't super formal. It was more like New Day were like, we think we deserve a title because we are who we are. And Pierce is like, how about you win a match and then we'll consider it. And they won a match. And the idea is they're formidable. It's a credible team. They're not someone that New Day handpicked. But I get JB's point. Javier.
Yeah, and I think the Raiders coming out was to both remind you that they're in the WWE and tag team champions, and to just kind of bridge that gap where you would they should win 3 or 4 matches, but we got the Raiders and the Raiders are fine with it, so that's likely the shortcut they're going to go. Yeah, not ideal, but is what it is.
JB says it'd be peak comedy if El Grande Americano actually wasn't Chad Gable. Well, he is, but he could end up with someone else being under the mask, and team with him. I mean, I think that's part of the gag here. I still don't know to what ends Chad Gable is doing this. What advantage is he gaining through this con? I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, I agree. Because I was thinking like, hey, maybe it's Ray Phoenix is going to be the guy behind the mask, and I'm you know what? Okay.
Well, but even so, why would Chad Gable? If you pretend wrestling's real, what would Chad Gable confess to somebody if he didn't know it was being recorded? That this is a plot in order to advance something of my own interest, and I have to do this to get it. There's nothing. It's just he's creating entertaining TV, but that can't exist in kayfabe. That's not a thing wrestlers do in the canon of wrestling. It should never be the sole reason or primary or acknowledged reason they do anything. It should be entertaining, but there should be a motivation that's clear.
Yeah, it's just weird. I haven't watched for like 2 weeks. I haven't had time to wrap around my brain what his actual plot is. Because at first I thought it was like, the mass is giving him like psychological powers. Whatever his block is about wrestling, is the reason is so he's he feels more free when he's wearing the mask. That could have been a way you could have gone, but now they're obviously signposting that he's not pretending it's 2 people because it was obvious by today's skit. So it could have been. I thought it would have been great because since they had that moment of you had the guy walking in the background, it's not me. Yeah. I thought it would be great that it'd be a way that some of the wrestlers that are coming in, like all of a sudden have like Rusev, if he comes back in the mask as the guy, and then Aleister Black, just like a running gimmick of wrestlers coming back, Carlito 1 week, that sort of stuff. But if you're going to just do a comedy, but I have no idea where this is going. So.
Javier, thank you. It's been a blast. Thanks for taking time out to analyze Raw with me.
Yeah, no problem, Wade. Always happy to help. Yep,
awesome. Thanks, everybody. Check out PWTorch.com all week for news and all that other good stuff. And go VIP, get your free trial. Search PWTorch VIP on Patreon or through Spotify or PWTorch.com/go VIP.